All right, so those were the headlines. And ladies and gentlemen, let's now move on to our top story on the show. Well, India has revved up its rare earth mission and is raring to go. The cabinet has approved a scheme to promote manufacturing of rare earth permanent magnets with an outlay of nearly 7,300 crores. The scheme aims to establish 6,000 metric tons each year of rare earth integrated permanent magnets manufacturing, particularly in the country. In fact, under the scheme, the total capacity will be allocated to 5 beneficiaries through a global competitive bidding process, and each beneficiary will be allotted up to 1,200 MTPA of capacity. How significant is this scheme, and what are startups in the ecosystem? How are they looking at this particular scheme in terms of the kind of leverage that Indian companies, new age companies, can get via the scheme? In fact, to discuss this and more, I'm now joined by Tarun Singhal. He's the director at Lohum. Thank you very much, Mr. Singhal, for taking the time out and speaking to us here on ET Now. First things first, given the fact that you've earlier as well built India's first integrated rare earth magnet production facility in Uttar Pradesh, and as a producer of rare earths, how do you plan to leverage the scheme, and what are your first thoughts as somebody who has been looking forward to some sort of policy support coming in this particular segment?
I think it is a continuation of Honorable Prime Minister's attempts for Aatmanirbhar Bharat. And we think that this is going to be a big boost to the industry in general, not only to magnets, because after all, electric vehicles, aerospace, wind power, everything requires permanent magnets. And 90% of it is imported from China, and China has been, putting restrictions. And I think this will also help the automotive industry. We export about $25 billion worth of parts annually, and a lot of them require permanent magnets. So I think it's a great initiative, particularly if you keep in mind that there is no production whatsoever of permanent magnets in India, really.
Absolutely, sir. In fact, you brought about a very important point, that of Aatmanirbhar Bharat, Mr. Singhal. So let me expand a bit more on that point. Given the fact that India has been looking at self-reliance in several sectors, and of course, critical minerals and rare earth magnets is one such sector, but how much of dependence will this package reduce on China? Will India still be more or large reliant on China, or will this significantly reduce our dependence on geographies like China, which has a chokehold over rare earths across the world?
India's current demand for permanent magnets is between 4,000 to 5,000 tons. And by 2030, we expect it to go up to 15,000 tons. This initiative is for 6,000 tons. But we are hoping that not just this initiative, but the states will also provide incentives for permanent magnet productions. It's a beginning. And in the next 5 years, I don't think we can become 100% self-reliant, but we will start moving towards it, because permanent magnet is going to take a long time for production, for development of technology, for getting domestic raw materials. So
absolutely,
the challenges are many, but I think it's a good beginning.
Absolutely, Mr. Singhal, a beginning has been made somewhere, and this is something that has been in the works. The industry has been particularly asking for it, the auto and electronics segment in particular, given the kind of export curbs that China has put on rare earth exports. And of course, those have loosened a bit with respect to the United States, but definitely that supply chain dependence on China remains. But, this is going to take a bit of time before actually factories and companies can roll out their own sort of rare earth magnets. But when we talk about India specifically as a market in this particular segment, what do you think are our strengths, and what are the strengths that we can essentially leverage on?
I think the strengths are that, number one, we have adequate deposits of rare earths. We are between the 4th and 5th largest rare earth deposit country in the world. Of course, we have not really exploited those deposits. Second is we have a large pool of people who are technology savvy, and therefore, given some inputs in R&D, we will start developing on our own. Even if you look at China, the technology came from Japan, and they indigenized it to develop their production. So the same thing will happen to us. In fact, United States, without naming a company, they're investing in a private company for development of rare earth magnets. So I think similar things will happen in India. We have the raw materials. We will develop the technology to take out the rare earth metals. We will develop the technology to make the metals, and I'm sure we will get support from Japan, which is really the leading country in technology, and we will develop. But it will take time. I don't think there is any quick solution.
Right. Right. There can't be any, immediate solutions, but definitely the government is looking at providing some sort of relief to various segments that have, faced pressure on account of China. But Mr. Singhal, let me also ask you another question. And this is essentially regarding India's outreach. And we've been striking very many pacts with countries, across the globe. And we've seen the United States also in the recent past tour as well. When Donald Trump, the president of the United States, was on his Asia tour, he did sign those partnerships with Malaysia. He did sign those partnerships with Japan as well in the critical mineral space. So when you compare those kind of, outreach efforts by governments across the world, do you think the kind of outreach that we are making and the kind of partnerships and MOUs that we are striking, how significant are those for the industry?
I think specific to the subject that you're talking about, rare earth magnets, we do not have too many international affiliations right now. I do know some government companies have been traveling to countries like Laos and others, trying to find out deposits and where they can have partnership. But as of now, we don't have too much to show.
Right. And I also want to ask you, Mr. Singhal, will you be applying for this package, and what are the expectations in terms of, what you're hoping to achieve via this?
See, we have already announced that we are setting up a 2,000-ton capacity plant in Uttar Pradesh.
Okay.
A lot of the technology we have already developed in-house. We have had support from some experts from outside India, and we hope to start production in 2 years' time. So I cannot say anything specific until we see the Gazette notification and the terms.
Right. So essentially what you're looking at is the initial set of announcements that you have made with respect to this particular segment, the factory that you're setting up in Uttar Pradesh. And that's essentially what you're looking forward to focusing more on. Thank you very much, Mr. Singhal, for taking the time out and sharing your thoughts on this very, very critical policy move that the government has brought about.
Thank you so much for having me here.